I'd like to welcome Abid Rao from our studios in Karachi. By the way, Hussain Haqqani, former ambassador of Pakistan to the US. I'd like to shake your hand, sir, as much as I can. He joins me here in the studios. He is now a director at the Hudson Institute and one of the well-respected academics and writers and columnists operating out of New York. Thank you very much, Hussain Haqqani, for joining us. And with us is Abid Rao. He is joining us from Karachi. He's a well-known strategic affairs expert. KC Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, thanks for joining in. And Rehan Khan is a senior journalist. I think he's joining us from Lahore. Rehan, thank you very much for joining us as well. I'd like to throw this first Thank you very much, Rehan. Okay, so I'd like to first throw it across to Rehan. Rehan, what do you think? Do you think, Rehan, that Nawaz Sharif will change the script when he speaks at the UNGA? What will his focus be on? Will Kashmir be the focus? Or will he like to talk on broader themes that the world would be more interested in hearing from him?
I think, Arnab, that we're probably hoping that he should be talking about Kashmir because a lot of people in Pakistan feel that the core issues, the conflict issues between India and Pakistan must be resolved before we can move on to friendly ties, particularly talking about trade. And that has been one of the main criticisms in Pakistan from his opposition and also from the Pakistani public at large, and that should really be the focus of his speech. A lot of criticism, of course, in the media and in the Pakistani public in general at the moment, considering the timing of this visit. The Prime Minister's Nawaz Sharif's visit to the UN for many is considered perhaps misguided or ill-advised because it probably gets 7 minutes to make his speech, and for that to actually address the main core issues with India and particularly focus on the issues that the UN would, or the US and the general world would like to focus on. I think the issues that concern Pakistanis might be overshadowed, particularly because of the dominance of the ISIS issue that, of course, is foremost in the minds of the global community. So the timing is pretty criticized in Pakistan. We have the Azadi Square protests in its 45th day here, as well as a huge economic crisis, as well as a polio alert, and not to mention the worst flood affecting Pakistan in its history. So I think it's perhaps the timing that will be again criticized. So he has to make this speech well worth its while, and also perhaps the timing of the speech in respect to Karzai's speech, which probably will, this speech will precede the Afghanistan president's speech. And that again is a cause for concern for many people listening very carefully to the Prime Minister's speech here in Pakistan.
Yes, you know, I get it. I get where you're coming from, Rehan. But you know, where the Pakistani raising up the Kashmir issue at the UN has become a old predictable script. And Hussain Haqqani, we also know what India is going to say. So the question many Indians would ask the Pakistanis, why would you want to bother at all? I mean, Nawaz Sharif raised Kashmir at the UNGA. He asked for international intervention last year. Even Manmohan Singh says Jammu and Kashmir can only be resolved bilaterally and if Pakistan stops its terror machinery. The question is no. The answer is no. Why engage on this at all?
I don't know. It comes from a psychological need at home to just talk about an agenda that is very domestic-centered. Let us be very honest. You have been here for a few days.
Yes.
I live here, not by choice, but by circumstances. I watch American television. I read American newspapers. There has been no coverage whatsoever of Mr. Nawaz Sharif coming here. He got no significant bilateral meetings. President Obama is not meeting him one-to-one. Other world leaders are not meeting him one-to-one on the sidelines. Meeting the Nepalese Prime Minister is a good thing, but let us be honest, in the global power play, it does not matter much. What we as Pakistanis need to do is to understand that if we are to play a role in the world, we have to pay attention to what the world is saying. So Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif can mention Kashmir if he wants to please his constituency back home, but he should also tell the people of Pakistan that out of 192 heads of state, he was the only one to mention it. 191 did not mention it.
Exactly.
And so it is time for us, look, we can either build narratives or we can build peace. Pakistan has a national narrative. We keep repeating certain things, but that doesn't change anything. The rest of the world still looks at us the way it does. many countries were saying, for example, that Lashkar-e-Taiba is a terrorist group long before Pakistan acknowledged, or Pakistan had to. Pakistan still doesn't fully acknowledge Jamaat-ud-Dawa to be a terrorist group, but the UN has declared it a terrorist group, etc., etc. There are many things in which the world's thinking and the thinking that Rehan is articulating from Lahore are very much apart.
So the point that you're making is very significant. First of all, because of what Pakistan has done, it has itself been reduced to absolute, on the edge of global insignificance. And you don't have to travel to New York to meet the Nepalese.
As a Pakistani, I don't want Pakistan to be reduced to a global insignificance. But if it is that way, then I want to change it.
Yeah.
And I want Pakistan to play a role commensurate to its size.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are powerful forces in Pakistan that keep repeating the same mantra. 45 days of protests by Mr. Imran Khan and Tahir al-Qadri, nobody in the world cares about it.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been able to gain anything either. Pakistan now needs to figure out, and I address this to my countrymen because a lot of people watch your show in Pakistan also. Look, when somebody like me says we have a problem, don't start calling me names for pointing out the problem. Start paying attention to the problem. If somebody tells you your house is on fire and you start saying, idiot, that's not the way to do it. So I agree with you. The Pakistani leadership is not learning the lesson that it should.
Why, and Maruf, this beats me. All the Pakistanis I speak to who are here in America in institutes speak a very different language. But I don't know if Air Marshal Abid Rao is with me from Karachi. Air Marshal Rao, are you there? Arnab here. Speak a very different language. But I don't know if Air Marshal Abid Rao... Can you hear me, Air Marshal Rao? Air Marshal Rao, are you there? Arnab here.
Yes, I can hear you.
But I don't know if...
Hello?
Right, I don't know. Our other guests here can't hear you, unfortunately. We're just fixing that link. The question here, Air Marshal Rao, listen to this. Listen to Hussain Haqqani.
Okay.
Listen to Hussain Haqqani, Air Marshal Rao. Can you hear Hussain Haqqani? Did you hear what he just said?
Yes, I have just heard him. Yes, I have heard him.
So, what does he say? He's saying to you, maybe he can repeat the fact. Because very often when you and I engage in dialogue from our studios in Mumbai or Delhi, you accuse me of being extremely partisan and holding only an Indian point of view.
Which, by the way, I also think, Arnab, and I don't grudge it because you are an Indian, so you should have a pro-Indian stance.
I don't.
But in Pakistan, there can be, and in India also, there can be more than one visions. I'm sure there are other people in India who have a view different than yours.
Yeah, but the point that he's made to you, Hussain Haqqani, is that by repeating this whole Kashmir issue, which unfortunately it seems that same mistake is going to be made by Nawaz Sharif in a few minutes from now, you have made yourself globally insignificant.
Do you want me to respond or you want somebody else to speak, Arnab?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I don't have to agree with Mr. Hussain Haqqani. He presents a very apologetic Pakistani.
I would like you to respond.
Okay, I'm speaking. What he has said about size of Pakistan and to act like that, I'm sure he should say that about Israel also. The sizes don't matter, the power potential does. Pakistan has much more power potential than what Mr. Hussain Haqqani thinks. He represents a government which did nothing and he is hiding there against some charges. But that is not the subject of your talk. What Rehan had said is a global view of what India and Pakistan actually face. The domestic problems all countries face. As far as the problems are concerned, I would like to take another view of this, that when Mr. Modi and Mr. Prime Minister, they are there, they should look after the future of these 1.2 billion Indians and 200 million Pakistanis. By not meeting, I think when you say that Kashmir is not a problem, there is some guilt that India is hiding, there is some state of denial that India is into that. You have to see the future of this subcontinent without Pakistan and India becoming friends, without talking about their problems. You will only be closing your eyes from a future war, future Kargil, future whatever. And this problem has to be solved one day, whether India likes it or not, whatever way.
Arnab, my only response to the Air Marshal is that only the Air Marshal can consider somebody who's sitting on television as hiding somewhere. And there are no charges. He should tell those people that have been trying to pretend that there are charges against me to bring charges. Propaganda does not amount to charges, but that doesn't matter. I won't even go into the fact that he said that I represented a government that did nothing. Let us be honest, it was a government that was elected by the people of Pakistan. The Air Marshal, unfortunately, represents an institution that has fought several wars and not won any. And I'm not going to say that, even though I just said. Let me just say that, look, power potential is many factors. Right. Power potential is just not aircraft that America has given to you in aid.
Yes.
It is not just nuclear weapons that you have developed with the help of China and North Korea. Power potential is your people, 180 million to 200 million Pakistani people.
Truly.
1/3 of our school-going age children do not go to school. Pakistan has only 58% school enrollment. India has 92. Bangladesh has 94. Sri Lanka has 96. Power potential is also economic potential. Power potential is also how the rest of the world interacts with you and how it receives you.
That's true.
When I was 18 years old, I've said this on your show before, I was even able to go to the United Kingdom without a visa. Now I can't even go to Sri Lanka without a visa as a Pakistani citizen. Pakistan has been globally isolated because some people whose job is not to make international strategy. All over the world, strategicians are not soldiers. They are people who are thinkers about strategy, people who are well educated about.
Is that a nice jibe you're taking at Air Marshal?
No. Air Marshal is a very nice man. I'm sure I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him. One day I will meet him.
He just said you were in hiding.
He will give me a cup of tea in Karachi when I do come back, which I will. Like many people have come back to Pakistan after having been isolated on false charges. It's not such a big deal. The fact of the matter is that Pakistan needs to have a strong debate, a robust debate about what is our national interest.
That's right.
Now, he said Pakistan and India need to be friends. Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. The difference between him and me is he wants the resolution of a dispute before we can be friends. I say we need to be friends before we can resolve disputes. The experience, and I'm somebody who has done this research, I want him to tell me of 2 countries that have been able to resolve a dispute first and become friends later. It is always friendship first and resolution of disputes later. Taiwan and China. China believes Taiwan is an integral part of China. For many years, Taiwan insisted it was China. It was the people. It was the Republic of China. And now Taiwan is not recognized by any country except 3 or 4 as the Republic of China. But Taiwan and China do business. China doesn't. When the Chinese president came here, did he talk about Taiwan? No. So China understands that getting on with the business of life, you can't let the dispute hold you back. Doesn't mean I don't want Kashmir for Pakistan.
No,
all I'm saying is become friends first, solve the dispute later. Don't hold the people of Pakistan hostage to one point of view.
I agree with you. And to our viewers, I'd like to say we should be about a few minutes away from Nawaz Sharif speaking. He's the next speaker lined up at the UN General Assembly. The reason we are looking at it very closely is to see whether Sharif moves away from the written script. I'd like to welcome K.C. Singh and Kanwal Sibal. K.C. Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, and Kanwal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary. K.C., you're listening on to this conversation. Good morning to you. Good afternoon from New York, and good evening to you there in Delhi. Now, obviously there's going to be sheer posturing here by Nawaz Sharif, it seems, to save any disgrace on the domestic front. There was a soft coup, we believe, in Pakistan that happened in August. But what do you expect Nawaz Sharif really to say today when he addresses the UNGA? Will it be the perfunctory template which sort of, Pakistani prime ministers are forced to put out? Will it be a more forceful assertion on Kashmir? However fatalistic it may be, will it be a more forceful assertion to make the generals more happy? Casey.
Well, the general rule is that when a Pakistani prime minister is under pressure, his last recourse is to really ramp up the Kashmir issue. We saw even Bilawal Bhutto screaming the other day, saying he will recover the whole of Kashmir. So to regain legitimacy or to stave off pressure, you go back to Kashmir and to a nationalistic position. There is a very reasonable position which Ambassador Haqqani has articulated. And then we found, of course, the standard position coming from Karachi and Lahore. So he will raise it. But how strongly he raises it, I think he will fall into a trap. because the mood at the United Nations has been dictated by President Obama's chairing of the Security Council on the terrorism issue, where they've discussed ISIS and passed a unanimous resolution saying every country must pass laws, very strict laws, to control funding of terror, and secondly, make sure that boys do not move and join terror groups. So here is a Security Council resolution passed 3 days ago. And then President Obama spent a quarter of his speech on ISIS. And the Americans are back via the air or via some presence on the ground in Iraq and Syria. Therefore, as they reduce their footprint in Afghanistan and their interest in Pakistan diminishes, their interest in terrorism hasn't diminished. In fact, President Obama has revived that interest. He realizes that this threat is seamless, is running from one place to the next, and this has to be countered. It'll have to be countered maybe for another 5 years, 10 years, till, it is, as he said, till it is eliminated in case of ISIS. So, the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif would be well advised, if he is under pressure for domestic reasons, he raises it. He should not be too blunt about it. Otherwise, he will be compelling the Indian Prime Minister, not necessarily to enter into a retaliatory response, but to take it down the terrorism route. Because what is really blocking India, has blocked since Vajpayee's time and then Manmohan Singh's time, is this alteration. You start a dialogue, then terrorism comes in. You get interrupted, the same thing happens. This paradigm has to be broken. And I agree with Ambassador Haqqani that nowhere can you have, and that is the flaw in the dialogue process. You can't have confidence building measures. Yeah, sure. Sure. You can't have confidence building measures.
I agree with you, Casey. There couldn't have been worse timing, but the Pakistanis don't quite understand it. This issue, there has been rejection from the United Nations. Whenever America has been asked to pick up the issue, they have said we categorically reject it. We are not going to get into that sphere. Yet this issue is raised. In fact, sometime back, I'd like to get Kamal Sibal in quickly. Kamal Sibal, what are you expecting now? We're a few minutes away from Nawaz Sharif's address. Sometime back, the expectation was that he's going to go harder on Kashmir. Do you think he's got the timing wrong, and despite getting the timing wrong, he'll continue anyway? Or do you think between yesterday and now he would do some calibration and maybe pull back and be more reasonable?